Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're digging into a big one, total quality management. We're actually using the UN's own guide to see their roadmap for, well, perfection. This is the stuff that can literally make or break a company.
So, let's just dive right in with a question, and it's a big one, something that probably keeps a lot of leaders up at night. How do you possibly win when your customers expect, no, demand perfection?
And the answer, well, it's not some magic bullet. You can't just buy a new piece of software or hire a consultant. The real answer is a total change in culture. And I mean total. This isn't about putting a new poster on the wall, right? It's a deep, fundamental shift in how everyone, from the CEO all the way down to the person on the front line, thinks and works every single day.
Okay, so before we get into the how, let's talk about the why. Why is this huge cultural shift not just a nice to have anymore? Why is it pretty much essential for survival in today's market? So what exactly is this thing, Total Quality Management, or TQM? Well, the guide boils it down to this. It's a company culture where preventing mistakes and always getting better is everybody's job. You know, it's about moving away from that old model of just having a quality inspector at the end of the production line. Instead, you build quality in from the very first step. And the pressure to do this is it's everywhere, right? Competition is fierce. Your customers expect more than ever before, and you have to nail it on both price and quality. There's no trade-off anymore. So that old idea of being good enough, yeah, that's just not going to cut it, whether your competition is next door or on the other side of the planet. Okay, so how do you even start something this huge? You might think it bubbles up from the bottom, but nope. The guide is super clear on this. TQM has to be a vision that's driven, and I mean driven, from the absolute top.
And look, this part is basically non-negotiable. The CEO has to personally own this. They're the ones who set the vision, who provide the leadership. It has to be them. Because without that active, visible commitment from the very top, any TQM plan is pretty much dead in the water before it even starts. But okay, a vision is great, but how does it actually turn into something real on the factory floor? Well, there's a system for that, and it's called policy management. Think of it like the official playbook. It's how you take that big, lofty goal of quality and turn it into concrete, measurable targets for every single department.
And you can see how it just cascades down through the whole company. The CEO sets the big goal, then the department managers figure out what that means for them and create their own goals, and then they break it down for their teams. It's this brilliant system for taking a massive objective and turning it into small, doable tasks for everybody, with, and this is key, constant check-ins to make sure it's all working. All right, so the CEO points everyone in the right direction, but it's the managers who are actually on the ground, building the bridge to get there. And they have to wear two very different but equally important hats to make it happen. I love this because it lays out those two hats so clearly. On one side, you have the system stuff, the processes, the standards, the records, all the technical nuts and bolts. But then on the other side, you've got the people stuff, training, motivation, empowerment. And you absolutely cannot have one without the other. They're two sides of the very same coin. Okay, so we've got the vision from the top and the bridge building from the managers. But what about everyone else? How do you get every single person involved? Well, the answer is a simple, beautiful, powerful cycle. This thing becomes the real engine of the whole operation.
And here it is, the PDCA cycle. You might have heard of it as the Deming wheel. Plan, do, check, act. It's so simple, but it's the core engine of TQM. You find a problem, you plan a fix, you go out and do the fix. Then, and this is crucial, you check if it actually worked. Did you hit your targets? Finally, you act. If it worked, great, make that the new standard. If it didn't, no big deal, you just start the cycle over again. It's all about making smart, data-driven improvements, not just guessing.
And the really cool thing about this, it's not just for managers. This cycle works at every level of the company. The CEO can use it for huge strategic plans, and a worker on the line can use it to improve their own individual workstation. It's like a universal language for getting better.
So how do you really bring this PDCA cycle to life? One of the best ways is something called QC circles. Basically, you get small groups of your frontline employees, the people who actually do the work and know it best, and they meet up voluntarily to solve problems in their own area. I mean, talk about empowerment. This is how you create a really dynamic problem-solving culture.
All right, so this is a ton of work, right? A complete cultural overhaul, new systems, getting everyone involved from the top to the bottom. So you got to ask, what's the payoff? What do you actually get out of all this?
And the results are really twofold. You get the hard numbers, the stuff you can count, things get delivered faster, costs go down, you have way fewer mistakes, but you also get these amazing soft benefits that are just as valuable. Teamwork gets better, people actually start caring deeply about quality, and motivation just skyrockets.
So let's talk about those hard numbers. What does that look like in the real world? It looks like this: 1.3 million ringgit. And that's not some made-up number from a textbook, that's a real result from a real company.
And here's the story. This comes straight from the guide. A company in Malaysia, Ingress Engineering, put these TQM ideas into practice, and their teams managed to slash their operating costs by nearly 1.3 million ringgit. But get this, they did it in just 6 months. 6! That's how powerful and fast this approach can be when it's done right.
And that really brings us to the final takeaway here: total quality management. It isn't just some complex theory for giant corporations. At its heart, it's a mindset. It's a simple cycle. And it really boils down to a question that you, me, anyone can ask about their own work. So think about it. What's the one thing in your world that you could start to improve tomorrow?